needed to take a chance on myself and take a bet on myself. And also I know now better and clearly of what it looks like if I don't do that. Like the consequences of not taking a chance on yourself. It's scary. Like I recognize that by accepting your truth is the only way you can move forward. We really have to be able to start at the stories that we know, and that's how real representation is created, by telling your truth unapologetically.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Chat with Nick. And oh my gosh, I am so excited because today we have a guest who's coming back for the second time to the show. We have Edrian Pangilinan, who is the director, producer, and writer of the film Ang Huling Sayaw. That's his film from last year, but he's coming back to the show with a new film. We're going to find out what that is all about today. Hi, Adrian. How are you doing?
Hello, Meg. How you doing? Just kidding. ASMR. Thank you so much for having me back. So like what we've been talking about behind the scenes as we were getting ready for this is congratulations on a new setup, and I'm really, really happy to be back for the second time.
Congratulations to you too, because you're in LA. Because the last time I know you were in transition from San Diego to LA, and now that you're in LA, you've found new things to do, and you have a lot of things that are coming up. But first, I wanted to find out, what truth did you have to accept about yourself to be the person sitting here with us today?
I love that first. Oh my gosh! I mean, my reaction already to that is okay. First question. I feel like on my way over here, as I was prepping myself to be on the show, there are many truths that I've had to accept about myself. And to answer your question, I think for me to really accept myself as I am, like to be the person that I am at this moment, showing up and sitting down. That's why, again, to thank you for having me back, because I know this is the nth time that we've tried to do this, and I apologize again for the times that I've had to cancel, because I've been going through it. I've been going through a lot of difficulties, in which is the truth that I have to face, that life is hard. That life can be hard, and as an optimistic person, I have to be able to accept the pains that I go through, and just see it as that. And by accepting that truth, then hopefully I can then move forward. First question.
That's a lot to uncover, right? But speaking of accepting the truth, with your new film Colorette, what is that about?
Oh, I love that. I love that segue. Actually, Colorette is a film about a coming of age of people later in their lives. My character is in their 30s, and I've noticed that a lot of coming of age movies happens for younger people, like younger meaning like teens and 20s. But yeah, like your first question, Ate, I was really at a point in my life where I wanted to stay in San Diego, and I loved it there. My community and my loved ones are there. My family is there, but a part of me recognized that I was growing, and also recognizing that that's a truth that I had to accept, was that I was growing. I was requiring more. I was wanting for more things happen to my life. And yeah, in the span of 2 years, and in that timeline, from 2023 to 2024, in between Ang Huling Sayaw to Colorette, is the timeline of that film. So I basically wrote about it. I wrote about Izzy Manlaig, Isaiah Manlaig, whose character goes through facing the mundane moments of his life, wanting, wanting more, but not knowing how they were gonna get there. And through the series of events, it led them to finally making the decision to choose themselves.
I noticed like a lot of your work has to do with personal stories. Like Ang Huling Sayaw, it was a personal story too. It's about meeting someone from the past, and I don't want to tell the whole story for everyone to hear, right?
PG.
But it has to do with your own personal experiences. With this coming of age movie that's coming out soon that you're working on, what types of experiences did you have to go through, or what challenges did you have to go through as you were going through life and finding out all these things that have to happen in order for you to mature into the person that you are now?
Yeah, thank you, Ate. I can definitely say that I'm still on the road to wisdom. I just turned 34. I feel like I'm I'm in the process of molting. Is that the right term? Like I'm really in the process of like becoming myself finally, and that's like the transformation. Like let's be honest, it's very painful. But just like how a butterfly has to become a butterfly through that process. And to answer your question, I feel like it's funny because in the back of my mind, I'm like, am I just gonna keep writing my trauma and putting that on screen? Though that's not my intention. I do feel like like there's I think the national artist of writing, Mr. Ricky Lee from the Philippines, mentioned that you have to start from the things that and the things that you've experienced. So as I still call myself a beginning. I'm still a beginner, and will always be a beginner in this. I've always only written what I know, and I think that like what you mentioned, I think that does show in my work, and I feel good about it. And one more thing, I think like in doing these kinds of works, I have to ask myself, like, what is the intention? Like the things that I'm writing, like, is it meant for film? Is it meant to vent for a friend? Is it meant to be in a journal or whatever? Right? Which one is it? So I have to remind myself, like, I'm creating this. I have to remind myself the reason why I'm choosing to tell the story in a film, and to make sure that I don't forget it.
What would the difference be? Like, so for example, like you and me, like you're telling it to someone or you're telling it to a friend versus writing it in a journal and thinking about showing it on the big screen. What are the differences? Because like, showing it on a big screen, that's a lot of work. This involves a lot of money. It involves a lot of people, a lot of moving parts that you have to think of in building that story. And when you're just talking to your friend, it's really personal. And when you write on a journal, it's just you and your paper, and that's it, right?
Yeah. Love your questions, by the way. I feel like, okay, three things. I talked about a journal, a friend, and a film, right? And yeah, this is the first time that I think I'm really like coming into sense of all of this. So I do love to journal. I grew up blogging on Zenga. If you know, you know. Like blogging online. So that's kind of how I've made sense of my life, really my life growing up, and just putting it out there, not even for an audience, but for myself. So I feel like, and then, I feel like talking to a friend, if this is all making sense, I feel like when I talk to a friend, obviously you're relaxed and, you're a friend. So, so this is what it feels like. And I feel like how all of that connects that into a film is usually like a lot of my works actually comes from a journal entry. With Ang Huling Sayaw, there was a line that I think I said to myself first as I was driving, then I wrote it down. The line was, "Ang hirap na maging isang bakla, napakasakit." And when I heard myself say that, I pulled over safely, and I wrote it down in my notes on my phone app, because I was like, oh wow, I think my heart is talking to me right now. And then same thing with Colorette too. I forget the line at the moment, but there were many lines because also I will mention it because it might be a spoiler if I say it. But there were moments like that where I felt like I wanted to use all three levels of using my journal entry as an inspiration and then translating that into the film where it feels like hopefully the person that's receiving it and watching it feels like, I'm talking to them like a friend.
Don't you feel like you have all these thoughts? Like you said, you're driving and you had all these thoughts and you have to stop and write it down so that it's out of your mind and it's on paper somewhere. And it's kind of a release, don't you think?
Yes.
When you have it on paper, it's documented, it lives somewhere. In the same token, when it's a film, it's there forever. Are you cognizant of like wanting to have things documented and memorialized in that manner?
I mean, now that you think about it, I mean, not you, sorry. Not that I think about it, my bad. Yes, but this was actually a little later in life, maybe like within the last 2 years for sure, that I started to realize, oh wow, I've really made a life. I've really made a career of putting myself out here or out there, which is why I'm here. I'm still I'm still at peace with that, and I think like as someone becomes better as an artist, as I become better, then I think my goal is to try to find ways to not make it so like I mean, direct. I think which is where creative agency comes from. Is like you take a seed for what it is, and then you let it develop, and let it grow to what it needs to grow. Versus, yeah, kasi I feel like, yeah, I mean, thankfully I'm not there, and I won't want to avoid ever getting to the point where I have any regrets, because my motto in life is like to really not have to look back and not have any regrets of putting myself out there. And I think that's what I want for my work to really try to speak on.
Speaking of creative agency, you have the total agency over what to put in a film, what to take out. You're not exactly telling everyone what's happening based on your journaling or your personal experiences. You're editing. You write the script or you think about scenes, certain things that aren't really shown and you're showing something else, or there's added conversations in the film that didn't really happen. How does that work? Because when we're watching films and they're based on a real story, it's not really the actual thing that happened. What decisions do you make to create a film?
Yes, I feel like I think two things that came up to mind as I was listening to your question. I feel like the first one that I want to say is, I think for me, in my choosing to tell like a certain portion of my life, right, from Ang Huling Sayaw, if it's okay with you, I just want to talk about that just a little bit, because when you asked me like how I felt about putting myself out there in terms of my films, right? So in the script, in the cover page, it says loosely based from I think loosely based from experience from pandemic or something like that. And then it didn't take me until like maybe 2 years later to realize I just outed myself, in that way as a mapagmahal, as a alam mo na, what I mean?
After the fact.
After the fact. Woo! Sorry. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, but then still thinking about like, but I'm also at peace with that, because that film, and I'm sure you saw it. Like after we filmed the first recording back in October 2024, like shortly after that, I won my award as a best director. And I think for me, when that happened, I think that was when it clicked to me that I think I'm onto something. I think I'm onto something with my storytelling. And yeah, to just keep focusing on it. What was the question again? Sorry, what was your question again?
My question is, what decisions do you have to make in creating a film?
Oh, yes. Oh, so sorry. I remember now. Okay. So the second thing that I wanted to say that will answer that question is, I think for me, the the reason that I would want to like choose a specific part of my life to tell is in hopes to not only find healing but to make it better, because I don't necessarily believe in, like the term is called trauma porn, where you're really just like putting yourself out there and it just goes on this cycle. You know what I mean? Like for Colorette, to segue naman to Colorette ate, the reason why I chose to tell Colorette was because talagang lugmok ako. I was, and like I was really at a lowest points of my life, and it kept like, or it felt like, excuse me, what's that movie called? Not the Hogwarts. Oh gosh, I'm blanking out. Sorry. Oh no, I blanked out. But it was this movie. Someone told me that it's like the day keeps playing over and over again. For those that are watching, please comment down on the comment section if you guys know what movie I'm talking about. But it's a movie where like the same thing keeps happening to them over and over and over again. And I felt like that was my life in San Diego. I was like, everyone was starting to settle down, and I was like, is this it for me? Those were the questions that I was asking myself, which became the seed to Colorette. And I also wanted to, like use that opportunity to imagine like what would my life look like if maybe X, Y, and Z was working out to my favor. You know what I mean? Like I took a seed of my pain, or I took a seed of my life, which happened to be the most palpable part, which is the pain. And then I planted it, and then I wanted to then kind of throw in some imagination to what would this plant look like if I gave it love? Like literally like self-love, you know what I mean? Like how could this plant grow if I decided to love on it? So I think, wow, you know what I mean? I think that was really like the impetus to me, in my stories, the portraits actually, the portraits that I want to tell, because I know that my legacy and the legacy that I hope to build is to tell stories that are real to me, because I think for those watching, we really have to be able to start at the stories that we know, and that's how real representation is created, by telling your truth unapologetically.
I've seen your last one, Ang Huling Sayaw, and certain things come up in your films like loneliness, mental health, dealing with thoughts and ideations, and also what it's like being part of the LGBTQ community. In Colorette, we're seeing those themes again, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny that you asked that question, because, like, I feel like that's something that the journey is still there. From Ang Huling Sayaw, I felt like the expression, or my expression, was a little bit more mundane and very, like, I would say masculine presenting, if that makes sense, but also like I was happy to really touch on my femininity as a gay queer person through the conversations that were made. But then on the flip side, to Colorette, like on the Colorette, I do think that I wanted to, not on purpose, like I didn't do it on purpose, but I'm also glad it turned out that way. That it was super opposite. It was more expressive. There was more body movements. There was literally more color, on the outside, but also to like, on like the person, you know what I mean? Like, just more color, just more expression, just more movement is what I'm trying to say. And I think like the last thing I want to say is with Colorette, I think this is the first project that I really allowed myself to, or finally allowed myself, and hopefully this will be the beginning of me creating works that really paint a picture for us in the community for more brighter and colorful future. Because I will say a lot of my like past works more emotional, are more, like I mean dark, I guess, but it is really more on that side. Pero kay Colorette, it's more they're just more of a spectrum, but the colors, in hopes of putting a more positive representation to us out there.
What is it about wanting to represent those emotions, those expressions, given that you wanted to bring out the colors in Colorette? What is it that's within you that's making you want to be the champion for the LGBT community in terms of film and independent film?
Uy, salamat naman ate for that question. In my opinion, excuse me, in my opinion, I don't. That's the thing. I don't try to be that. Um, what I would like to do, and what I think I'm doing well at, is going back to my core and just telling the stories. Uh, yeah, telling stories that are clear to me. Really utilizing my pain as a way to express and find healing. And I think maybe where people are like joining me along in this journey is because they see themselves, like they are able to see a part of themselves in my journey through the works that I'm creating. And yeah, I mean, I also feel like I don't. I mean, it'd be cute, I mean, if I get there, but to answer your question, I feel like, I always have to humble myself because let's be honest, I mean, like, I feel like all of that it really can get to your head real quick. And I'd like to think that I always try to be cognizant of like, baba lang tayo. Like, let's stay down here. Let's not forget where we've come from, but also enjoy what's in front of you. Enjoy what's coming. I think that's it. Yeah, I really try not to take myself too seriously, unless it's for my craft.
That's a really good mindset to enjoy yourself and accept what's coming and be humble. Speaking of representation and representing Filipinos out there on the big screen, I know you're a big proponent of that. You were saying earlier that you have the superpower of Filipino-ness. Tell me more about that. What is that superpower about?
That I love it. Yeah. Again, thank you for asking me that question. I've said that many times. Your questions are on point. Come on, I just have to. I want to give you your flowers first for these really really amazing questions. I'm thank you. Filipino-ness, it's that's a term that I've heard before. I forget where, and I feel like I feel like since I was born in the Philippines, proudly born in Mandaluyong City. We came here when I was 9 years old, and I just remember telling myself like, I wanted to stay as Filipino as I can, but also like now, like 25 years later, in a couple of days of this recording, we would have moved here, or we will have moved here like 25 years ago. And I'm really proud of myself for staying to my roots, even though I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what that felt like, but all I remember was like making sure that I didn't lose my essence of being Filipino from the Philippines. Because let's be honest, like, there are many different Filipino experiences. Filipino American, someone who's born from the Philippines and then moved later, or you know what I mean? So I think the term Filipino-ness is a term that I have been, passionate about because it describes me. I feel like maybe for the aspect of community, like being able to be someone that shows up, that is okay to give back, the warmth of a Filipino, our like through our food, through our conversations, our being a team player, and all of those positive I'd say stereotypes really, but I think more so elements more than anything.
In your experience in the Philippines, albeit it was a little bit short of a time spent in the Philippines. What was it about that experience that made you consciously want to stay being Filipino and have all of those experiences with you as you live life in the US?
It's funny that you asked that because I was only 9. I was only 9 years old when I moved here. But then the 9 years out of 25, that's a long time to really, try to really try hard for me to stay the way that I am. I felt like it was important for me to do that because, my life in the Philippines, I grew up in the slums. Like my parents were well off, but the neighborhood that I grew up in M. Cruz and Mandaluyong, I was surrounded by different walks of life. Like poverty, was poverty was very normal to me. Let's see, being with people that are very joyful, people that are very, in community, being able to like have, that side of my family that, my mom's side, who was naturally warm, naturally expressive and caring. And then I guess in that context, I'll talk about my dad's side, the Pangilinans, they also, both sides actually grew up in poverty, really worked hard to get themselves into, all of us into a better life, but their side is more strong, very resilient, so I feel like, I feel like in that, in that context, I'm a little bit of both. Yeah, I mean, I feel like at that young age, I feel like those were the things that I really wanted to live in me, and now moving forward, as I'm like, as we're getting older, I hope that these things will continue to live in me too.
From the Philippines, you moved to San Diego, but then from San Diego, you moved to LA. What's that decision about?
Yeah. So Colorette is, so actually that question relates to Colorette. In 2022 was the time frame. Like 2022 was when I finally decided to take a chance on myself, but not even moving out. You know what I mean? I took a dance workshop with Contratiempo, an amazing activist dance company here in LA. Sorry, 2 weeks were coming up. A lot of things happened, and I I felt the message. I felt the download of like, what if I stayed here? Like the 2 days became, a week, another weekend, 2 weeks, and then it became, oh, let me just stay here for the rest of the month. So those are the things that were showing up, and at some point I was like, what if I just stay? But I was still, doing the back and forth because, like my heart, was still in San Diego, and even now it still is, but fast forward to 2024, I actually moved back home. So from 2022 to 2023, I was in LA, and then from 2023 to November 2024, after, reconciling with my dad, which was the real, which were both the reasons why, I left, but without giving too much away, because that was the chunk of the seed that I chose for Colorette, was the reason why I finally decided to stay, but I don't know, but I feel like ultimately the 2024 version of that, for me to now staying full time, was because, I was really feeling like I finally needed to take a chance on myself and take a bet on myself, and also I know now better and clearly of what it looks like if I don't do that. Like the consequences of not taking a chance on yourself. It's scary. I mean, both are scary, right? Like it's scared to be big, and it's scared to dream, but also really learning what it feels like for me, what that could look like on the other side too. I feel like that's more scary. So that's why I finally jumped.
Earlier, you were talking about things happening and repeating again and again. Is that part of that experience when you were in San Diego? You just didn't want the
Yes.
same thing happening and you needed to take a leap of faith?
Oh yes. Oh, sorry. Groundhog. I'm fine. It's that movie, the Groundhog movie. Or that's the term. Yes. Yeah, that was the term that I was trying to say earlier. Like the same thing. The same things. Come on, keep happening. And I feel like for me, that was the impetus for me to be like, you know what? Either I stay in the cycle of of that, or I take the step to taking what's next for me.
You finish Colorette and you take step forward into that future, unknown future, right? What do you think is your purpose in all of this?
Ooh, wow. I feel like, let me see. I feel like, so going back to my thought on creating my films as a way, not just because I feel like Ate for in the like when I was younger, I feel like, oh, my younger version would say I create my films to heal. And that still is true, right? But now I feel like moving forward, like taking that healing journey and also like painting a better picture. Like I feel like in my films, I hope to create a life for myself reimagined for the better, with more hope, with more color.
Pain and healing comes in many forms. If you were to tell someone who is probably going the same things that you went through or that you're going through, what can you tell them at this point?
I feel like I feel like honestly still being in the thick of it, what's one thing that I would tell them? I think the first thing that comes to mind is don't be hard on yourself, and also accept your truth. Going back to your questions, I feel like, yeah, definitely giving me being able to give the same freaking grace and compassion that I can give you, or Mike running, I'm showing up for me, what I mean, like being able to do that for others, but being able to do that for myself. I'm not sure if it's really true or not, that maybe it is true that what I mean, that we are really hard on ourselves. And I feel like that's something that I've had to learn. And then also to going back to my second thought, accepting your truth, accepting things for, like for as they are, for what's happening. And then also using that to like recognize that by accepting your truth is the only way you can move forward. You know what I mean? Because I mean, you can be in denial for as long as you can, but for me, from my personal experience, it's really hard to move on when you haven't, taken the chance to look at yourself, take a look at yourself in the mirror long enough, and like see yourself, for who you are, and hopefully, be able to love yourself.
Where can people find you? They want to find out more about Colorette or your other films.
Yes, you guys can find me I'm mainly on Instagram. So it's Edrian Pinguino, Edrian, Penguin with an O. Yeah, I mean, just mainly there. And then you guys will find the rest of my stuff in my LinkedIn bio on that Instagram. Yeah, and connect with me. I want more friends, especially here in LA. It's a new chapter. I feel like I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know you asked for only one question, but I feel like this is also a perfect time for me to make new friends as a part of my healing journey. To make new friends, show up for a community like this, and like thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. This is such an awesome conversation. Went a lot deeper than our first conversation. Of course, like if you want to know more about the film Colorette, please comment Colorette below. And will answer your questions. For everyone who's watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. Everyone, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next episode of Chat with Nick. Thank you. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Tang and Java. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out.